In 2016, the US electorate nominated Donald Trump as the giant middle finger to political correctness, the toxicity of identity politics, and their enablers in the mainstream media. Across the pond, Nigel Farage spearheaded a campaign for the UK to reassert sovereignty and common values. In Canada, well, let's face it, Canada's fucked. But what about Australia? Do we have a Trumpian or Brexit-like movement afoot? Ask this question of Australians and they'll probably say Pauline Hanson. Pauline Hanson is one of the few politicians that will honestly engage with issues like Muslim immigration and the collision of cultural values. She's also one of the only politicians that seeks to address the inequities that discriminate against men in the family court. During the 2016 election campaign, Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull signalled how out of touch with the electorate he is by stating that Pauline Hanson wasn't welcome in Australian politics. Her One Nation party then went on to win 4 Senate seats and is predicted to win a whole lot more seats in the upcoming Queensland state election in March. And Hanson evokes similar reactions from the left to that of Trump. Most of the mainstream media despise her. She's labelled a racist and an Islamophobe on a regular basis. Hanson no doubt has plenty of flaws and a checkered political past, to put it mildly, yet she enjoys strong support from the Australian electorate for her message. Why? Well, perhaps it has something to do with the general level of disillusionment with establishment politics as espoused by the major political parties. During the last federal election, out of 16.4 million eligible voters, almost 750,000 voted informally. More than 800,000 or 5% didn't even enrol, and 1.4 million or almost 10% of those who were enrolled decided not to show up, and less than 2/3 voted for the major parties. That leaves 37% or almost 2 out of 5 of eligible Australian voters did not vote for a major political party. In addition, the coalition's combined vote fell below 40% for only the second time in its 70-year history, and the Australian Labor Party polled its second worst primary vote since World War II. But it gets even worse than that. The Australian National University last week released a report titled Trends in Australian Political Opinion, with data spanning over the last 50 years, and it shone further light on the level of dissatisfaction with mainstream politics. Now, the report is 65 pages long, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm just going to highlight some of the more striking findings. So the percentage of those that have a good deal of interest in the election is at its lowest levels in 30 years. Not surprising, given the uninspiring campaign platforms of the 2016 election. Jobs and growth from the Liberal Party, and people first from Labor. How cliched and boring. And fewer people are interested in discussing politics, and not many are actually interested in trying to persuade others, which, let's face it, is usually a futile task, but may have something to do with the fact that people are more afraid to voice their opinions in this day and age. Now, when it comes to party loyalty, only 40% report that they always vote for the same party, down from 72% in 1967, and a record number of people considered voting for another party. Now, I think this is a positive, that people are willing to change their minds and kick the bums out if they're not satisfied with their performance. But clearly, it's a vote of no confidence in the major parties. So if you add the number of people who say they have some interest or a good deal of interest in politics, it's a very healthy 77%. So despite the lack of interest in the most recent election, people are interested in politics. But again, it seems they're just not that interested in the crap coming out of the major parties. Now here are some other rather disturbing trends. 40% of people are not satisfied with democracy, almost back to the levels after the constitutional crisis of 1975 when Gough Whitlam was dismissed as Prime Minister. That was understandable, but today it's the march of social justice authoritarians which are responsible for that threat to democracy. And when it comes to trustworthiness, we've never seen such levels of distrust in Australian politicians. And this chart shows that people think politicians are clearly out of touch with ordinary Australians. So it appears the general public is disillusioned when it comes to trust in politicians and the major parties, and that is why they turn to parties like Pauline Hanson's One Nation. Now, there's been some stirring in recent weeks about the possibility of a breakaway party of Conservatives under Cory Bernardi. Some believe that he's missed the boat and that the protest vote has gone to Pauline Hanson. No doubt if Bernardi did form his own party, it would throw the Liberal Party into crisis. But personally, I'd rather support Cory Bernardi than Pauline Hanson and the directionless coalition government under Malcolm Turnbull. Bernardi keeps denying a possible split, so we'll have to wait and see what happens in 2017. Whether Pauline Hanson is our Trumpian candidate or a new Conservative Party under Cory Bernardi, what is without doubt is that the political landscape in Australia is ripe for such a candidate. And don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe, or please consider supporting me on Patreon. Thanks for watching.